Now, whenever you're applying your modifiers, there is one thing you want to take into consideration. So I'm going to give you an example here. Again, I'm going to use an array, and then after the array, I'm going to use a bevel, or a solidify rather, because I can't really add a bevel until we have some thickness, right? So we'll add the array, the solidify, and then the bevel here. Make this bevel a little bit smaller, make it a bit rounder. If I went in here and I tried to apply the bevel, for example, if I just wanted to lock in that bevel, which we'll explain why this is a bad idea later on, but just as an example, you're going to see when I do that, it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't work. The reason this happens is because of the order we applied it in. Whenever you apply a modifier, what happens is behind the scenes in Blender, it moves the modifier to the top of the modifier stack and then applies it. Now you can't actually see this happening, but that's technically what is happening behind the scenes in Blender. We click apply, it will move it to the top and then apply it. And you're going to see if I move it to the top on my own, now the bevel goes away. Why exactly does the bevel go away? This is where the order of your modifiers matter. Now let's take a look as to why this happens. So you're going to see here, if I move the bevel to the top, we don't actually have a bevel. Now let's think about why. I'm going to turn off all of these modifiers. Just going to go to viewport visibility, turn all of those off. The default object we had here before we modified it at all is we just had a plane. Now this plane here has no thickness. So where in the world are we going to add a bevel? There's nothing to bevel. There's no thickness, so there's nothing to bevel. So if I add a bevel modifier first, nothing's happening because there's no edges to bevel, right? It's flat. There's no thickness to it. But if I turn on the array after, well, we can still array a flat object and we can still solidify a flat object. We just can't bevel a flat object. And this is why applying an order is important, because what's happening is we first have an array. So the first thing Blender is doing is it's converting that plane into an array and then converting that into solidification after the array and then adding a bevel to it. So this is why applying an order is important, because first we lock in the array and then we lock in the solidify. And now that we actually have thickness to it, now the bevel works, right? And then we could apply that if needed. So that's basically a little bit confusing, I know, but the order of the modifier stack is incredibly important, and hopefully that shows you why.